What's up, folks? It is the NFC Southbound and Down podcast. It's Wednesday night, obviously, because I'm here with the fellas, and we're going to talk some NFL football. What's up, guys? How you doing? Greg, say hello.
I'm doing great. This is Greg Barber here. Definitely represent the Saints here on Southbound and Down. You can contact me at IntenseGB on Twitter pretty much anytime. Hit me up.
Go, jump in there.
What up, Panther Nation and Who Dat Nation and is it Falcon Nation?
Or Rise. What is that? Rise up.
Rise up.
Rise
up.
It's a privilege just to be on another show with these guys. We make it a lot of fun. It's serious because we all love to rep our team, but it is a privilege. Yeah. We're down a man tonight. Scott's hopefully making some money at work and won't be able to join us tonight, but nevertheless we'll give him plenty of grief despite the fact that he's not here. Or maybe that's why he's working, because he knew he was going to come on this show and catch a ton of grief for the way the Falcons played. So maybe he.
What it is it's less work for him to be at work with all the defending and rationalizing he would have to do on this show right here. So
exactly.
It's another fun night. Tony Dunn here, the professor. Let's go ahead and jump in there and get started. And we got two the winners this week were the Saints and the Panthers. The Saints took Tampa Bay in overtime, right?
Yes, they did. On a
overtime win.
Reed Robinson run.
Yeah, it was.
That's right. It was a nice run. It was a tough game for the Saints. The Carolina Panthers also defeated the Chicago Bears in a comeback where, it was a big-time comeback win for the Panthers. Falcons went down in New York, and obviously you guys defeated Tampa. So why don't we start with the largest division game, which was the Saints and Tampa Bay, because the rivals. Overtime win. Give us about 2 minutes, Greg, on what you're feeling this week coming out of that game, whatever you want to highlight coming out of that win.
Well, as expected, and as I said before, it was going to be a close game because I knew the history between these two teams. Much like the Atlanta game, I can pretty much always predict that it's going to be a very close game between the Saints and Tampa. And, Tampa gave us a heck of a game, that's for sure. But also New Orleans kind of helped them along, especially with Drew Brees with 2 interceptions and things like that. But for the most part, they came out of it, even though they were, they didn't play as well. And they definitely probably played closer to, they played in parts of the game, they played like they definitely should have lost the game. But in the end, especially at the overtime, they came out there with one heck of a drive, went down the field and finished it and capped that thing. Like I said, with a great run by Kyrie Robinson. But you got to give some props to Pierre Thomas, who made some great plays. You got to give a lot of props to, Ben Watson, who came into place of Jimmy Graham. I'm not saying he played Graham-like, but he was solid in his play there. And Colston, he dropped some passes, but at the same time he made a clutch pass down late in the game that helped the Saints also. And so it's a few players who should be spanked on the hand for a bad play, but at the same time should be patted on the back for some of the good play. So everybody was so up and down, but they did it. They were up when they needed to be and won.
Well,
tell us about the status of Jimmy Graham.
Right now, I haven't really heard anything. All they said is it was a sprained shoulder. So from what I'm hearing, also what was suspicious about it was because the Saints had cut Kyrie Ford, one of their draft picks, after he was supposed to be coming back from his injury. So what they did was they ended up cutting him instead of putting him on the roster, and then they finally put Jairus Byrd on injury reserve. At the time, he was still holding a roster spot over the weekend. So now they finally put him on, and they brought in Tom Crabtree as another tight end. So that cautions me that maybe Graham's injury is a little more serious than we think. but also understand I think Watson was also a little hurt himself. So I don't know. One of those two may be possibly not making the next game, or they're just being cautious because they don't know exactly to the extent how bad the injury is.
I want to bring up a couple of things you said. First of all, I'm going to give props to Kyrie Robinson because that was a heck of a run. That was a hard run.
And it's the only way he runs.
Man, it was impressive. Then I want to ask you about Drew Brees. For me, not watching every Saints game and just, catching things here and there, it seems like he's having something of a down year. Would you say that's the case?
I think he's forcing things. I mean, I've seen him do this in the past too, and he gets that way where, and I guess one writer who was it, Larry Holder for NOLA.com called it kind of the Brett Favre moment, where he was, because especially with those two interceptions, and the first thing you start hearing, people thought his arm was bad, or his arm was, like he was losing ground there. He wasn't playing as well. So they think he's diminishing a little bit. I don't quite think so. I mean, the first interception that he threw to Cadet, toward Cadet, one Cadet probably could have moved up closer to the ball and tried to box Jonathan Banks out. Chuck that and just had a sack. Because the minute that ball hit the air, my heart went right up to my throat because I knew exactly what the hell was going to happen. I knew exactly the ball started floating around. Next thing I know, I ain't see anybody in the picture but a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, a linebacker. And then next thing you know, the guy catches it and runs it back in. He
seems to be making a lot more of those having more of those moments. I saw one of the parts of the game I was watching. He just threw it out of bounds, and it should have been like an intentional grounding almost. I mean, I know that you can't. He just threw it like straight sideways. It wasn't even. It was barely a forward pass. Like he waited and waited. He was going to do something, and then he just like looked over and almost threw it to Sean Payton, and it was just really weird and ugly and uncomfortable looking.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't think this is I think we saw signs of this a little bit last year. I know that, man, look, a guy that's thrown 40, 50, whatever, he throws 50 touchdown passes every year, it's hard to see what a decline is. What's a decline, 48? 42?
Right.
I mean, those are good numbers, but we can see he looks less than perfect now for some reason.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's kind of like in baseball, where you have a pitcher and you throw him X number of innings, and you throw him X number of innings over the course of 10 years. He's going to lose something on his arm. And Brees has thrown 5,000 yards 4 seasons in a row.
3 seasons in a row, 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years, 5 years.
Okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot of throwing.
That is a lot of throwing. Yes.
I mean, you think about 5,000 yards, and we ain't even talking about the passes that weren't complete.
Right. We're just talking about the ones that he caught and the yardage counted. Right. So that seems to me to take its toll over the course of 4 years.
I can believe that, yeah. But see, in that case, it's not. That's the thing too, is that I wouldn't say he's ready to be put out to pasture. I think
no, not at all. Not at all.
But I mean, sometimes with Saints fans, you hear some of them, and some of them act like it's about time to put him in the yard and shoot him at this point. And I'm like, no, I don't buy that for a reason. Now, don't get me wrong. You have to make some adjustments. Yeah, you may have to rely on the run game a little more. The receivers, might have to be a little, as far as getting more separation, running better patterns, things like that. Because sometimes he does have to squeeze the ball in because the receivers are not getting enough separation either. So, you have to kind of force the throws. You got to do something with it, or you're going to take sacks all day. Plus, your defensive line is declining. It's about time to get some new pieces in there. I'm seeing now that, because, Jahari Evans got beat like a drum all day by Gerald McCoy in that game. So, I mean, McCoy was blowing by him. And don't get me wrong, McCoy does that to a lot of folks. McCoy's an all-pro nose tackle, probably the best in the league, really. I mean, he's definitely in the conversation if anything.
Yes, yes.
So I get that, but Evans will beat a lot more in this game than he normally is. I mean, everybody gets beat, and I get that, but so I think that there's some adjustments there where Drew can't be the guy carrying them anymore. That they got to it's got to be a total team effort. So maybe they have to change some things a little bit, or change the philosophy of the offense a little more, so that Drew is not trying to trying to do too much, because he's not going to be at that stage where he could take over a game anymore.
Right.
All right, you guys, weren't you guys down for a lot of the beginning of the game?
No, actually, beginning of the game, we were up like 13 nothing, I think. Yeah, 13 nothing, and then they came back and it was 13-10 at halftime, and then all of a sudden around third quarter, I mean, Tampa kind of took over, and ended up leading us like 24-13, I think it was, and then the Saints went down, scored. They tried to go for a 2-point play, missed that 2-point play, but then got the safety on Mike Glennon. Right, they got him backed up in the end zone, and Gillette made a hell of a play on that one and ended up sacking him. And they needed that. That was so timely, to have that play. And then they ended up driving back down again and getting the field goal. But, I mean, once again, I looked at those field goals, and those were points left off the table, that they would drive down the field strongly, and then they would turn around and end up having to settle for a field goal because they can't get it over into the end zone there. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they could. I mean, and it's funny, they got one of the top offenses in the league, but they do not look like the top offense in the league. If you looked at them, it's almost mind-boggling how they're the top offense in the league as far as their rankings. I think they're ranking third in passing, ninth in rushing, and I think they're like number one in the league as far as yards. And
they look out of sync.
It's totally out of sync. I mean, you can't. All you can see is out of sync. It's like that flow there. That's the smoothness of the offense.
Right.
It just ain't there. It ain't clicking the same way. But they're getting through it. But they're just not clicking. It's just not clicking. I mean, like I said, I think they're averaging like 26, 27 points a game. They easily could be averaging almost 35, 40 points a game easily. It's just the points they left off the table, left off the field that they should have scored. That they had a touchdown instead of a field goal, or they blew because they, when he was going long, the pass was a little too short or something like that. It was able to be defense. It was just all sorts of plays.
I want to ask you guys something, because I'm going to play you guys a little something, and I also want to get some feedback on this. But
okay.
Once again, we're talking about the Saints offense always. And there's something to be said about talking about the defense. I think we need to get to know. And with Rex Ryan, I want to know this: Rob Ryan. Is everybody in the Big Easy drunk? Because listen to this question and exchange with this reporter right here. Let's see if what I want to know is, and let me see if I can get it.
Week and just probably talking on. Has there been anything happen where you personally, outside the locker room, home encounter somebody like that, make you feel better, to make you feel a little bit better this week, or you just concentrate on more?
Well, I know we got a new chameleon. My daughter has a new chameleon. We're excited about it. It changes colors, and you got to see it tap those bugs. That's pretty awesome.
Hold on, it gets
Saw
great.
About 12:30 last night. It's pretty impressive. But she's great. My son, mad at us for losing, but he's doing good in his football. They had a big win. No, sir. But but he had a big win, and he's doing really well. Got invited to the Ole Miss game, so as a recruit, so he's excited about that. But life goes on. It's look, we don't want to lose, and it's never easy. It's never easy.
All right, so what I'm getting to with this is that, first of all, what is that about? What kind of question was that by this reporter? Where
I'm not really sure. Maybe
what's going on in your personal life that all of a sudden made this turnaround for the Saints defense? So you guys played a better game on defense, supposedly, than the crappy ones you've played for the beginning of the season. And
It
all of a
was
sudden, it's got to do Rob Ryan's chameleon and his son. I think they're drunk in the easy.
no, it was. I think that was just a case of. I think he was avoiding the question overall. I would say he was avoiding that question. So he figured, the chameleon was a great answer.
Yes, it was.
And, it was a great answer. So he was just avoiding that. And I mean, as far as the defensive play, they came through when they needed to. I mean, I will give them that. They weren't perfect and not expected to be. I mean, the other guys on the other side get paid too. But it just. They still got a lot of work. Like I said, I mean, I think this bye week is so needed, and hopefully that they're out there working out the kinks. And I mean, I'm not expecting them to come out perfect and play when they play Detroit, but I expect them to be a hell of a lot better than what I've seen over the last 5 games. I mean, that's all I ask. All I want to just see is be able to see some improvement on both sides of the ball and special teams, and it looks a little more in sync than what it has been.
Should this game have been as close as it was?
Probably not, because the truth is we kind of let them back in a way. Because I mean, what do we have, like a 13-0 lead? So you think that at that point you should have been piling on. Right. I mean, you kind of got a little bit of control of the game, and then they just kind of at the end of that second quarter they just kind of lost it and just allowed them to score on one score. Nice play by Lamar. What is it? Yeah, Lewis Murphy. I apologize. Nice catch by him.
Yeah.
In the end zone there, and then I mean also
former Carolina Panther.
Yeah, and I mean, he's actually making plays there because he played pretty well in that game. There, I mean, he's a decent receiver, but he generally he's somebody who doesn't scare anybody, and he damn near look like a Hall of Famer, to a point. Yeah, again, and that's the thing, because when they signed him, like, well, I mean, that's a body, if anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the truth. But the guy played, he played a whole lot better.
Yeah, he's contributing. He's contributing to that team.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is.
Greg, last year the Saints go up 13-0. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Last season, the game's probably, 30, 34, whatever,
Yeah. Agreed.
So what's the difference this year? What is the biggest difference that you've seen comparing last year to this year?
I can't even tell you. I mean, a lot of people will put it in for, and it is kind of knows why. Like I said last week, vocal leadership I think is not there. Excuse me, losing Malcolm Jenkins, losing Jonathan Vilma, Will Smith. You're losing all these guys here
all veterans
who were kind of vocal leaders as well.
Yeah.
And now you got a lot of guys who try to lead by example, but nobody's not necessarily getting on anybody's ass. They're not getting in anybody's face and saying, making them accountable for what they're doing as much. I think they kind of allow the coaches to do it, and I think it really does need to be somebody, some player on the team. Whether I don't know if it got Kenny Vaccaro or somebody needs to get in there and just start getting on people a little bit, or just kind of we need to have. I mean, I know Curtis is the leader of that defense. He's definitely the leader, but I don't know if he is as vocal as he probably needs to be overall with that. So I think part of it is the vocal leadership. And if you really think about it, that defense is very, very young. If you really think about it, most of those kids, most of them are pretty much kids. They only been in the league, 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So they're not even necessarily very seasoned in a sense. I mean, they're talented, but they're not super seasoned. So now there's a lot more on their shoulders too. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand you're gonna make mistakes, and but that's gonna be. But they need to definitely. They got to step up. They got to put the big boy pants on and grow up now. I mean,
how much is the Bird injury gonna hurt you guys? Are you worried about it? Even not just him hurting you immediately, but how much you paid to acquire him, and how much time he has on his contract on top of that?
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's not a career-ending injury, then it's not that big. It's not as big of a deal on the long term. As far as for the season, right now, because he's only been on it 4 games. I mean, he's only been on the team 4 games. It's not a huge piece missing. I mean, I think Raphael Bush can handle the job at this point. Don't get me wrong, not on the same level as Jarius Byrd, maybe not as talented, but he's solid. He's definitely a solid player. Cairo definitely played his best game. That's the best game I've seen him play against Tampa. I mean, because the other 4 games I was trying to figure out what the heck was wrong, and found out that he was still dealing with the scar tissue and some of the pain from his ankle injury last year. So he never, and I didn't know that. He kind of revealed it, and you could tell it was an absolute difference in him, because I mean he was attacking his line of scrimmage. He made some really nice plays there. But I mean, overall, I mean, we definitely need to upgrade a little bit at linebacker. I think, I mean, especially with I would like to see. I mean, Lofton is pretty strong. I think Hawthorne, and we got to get a little bit better in that area there. I think Hawthorne is not. He could play. He's okay, but not what you need. You know, you need a little more speed there and that type of thing.
He's not the solution.
No, he's definitely not the solution. He really isn't. I think Paris Harrelson is a little bit better than people think as far as a linebacker. I think he should be getting a lot more playing time than what he does. You know, Paris might be the closest to a vocal leader on that team, too, and he's been in the league a little longer. But they don't really have. Think about it. They don't have a lot of 5-10. They don't have a lot of 10-year veterans on that team. When you look at that line, it's very. I mean, most of those guys are 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Does Atlanta have a bye as well next week?
No, they play Chicago, I think. They play
Chicago? Okay. I didn't see it on the schedule. All right. Let's talk about Atlanta for a second. Move on to us.
Sure.
And talk about this team. What day of the week is it? Is kind of part of the story there. Is which week? I mean, it's crazy what goes on there. It's every week we see a different team, and I think I got
take from this press conference. We've played 5 football games. We've been
Mike
inconsistent.
Smith.
We're 2-3. Do we like where we're at? No. There's a lot of football left to be played, and our number one goal is to win the NFC South, because that's the cleanest way into the second season. And there's a lot of football to be played. This is a very competitive division. You can look at the records of the team right now, and
So he goes on to say that this is frustrating for them, and that there's a lot of football to play still. What are we really getting with this Atlanta Falcons team? One week they look like they're unstoppable, almost to the caliber of the Saints last year, offensively. Is this injuries, or is this something deeper? Is this team just? Do we even have to really worry about them?
I kind of think it's a little of both. I mean, injuries are part of it. Number 2, I don't know if they have nearly the depth that that people. Depth was the one thing that I think that holds them back, because once those frontline guys are gone, now you got a lot of they feel like they got a lot of guys that they're not sure if they can count on, and I think that's what's happening.
Big drop off from the starters to their second stringers, and they as much as the Panthers have been hit by the injury bug, I think the Falcons have been hit worse.
Yes, and I mean the Saints been hit pretty decent themselves, but not to the Falcons level. I mean,
they've been decimated, man.
Yeah, we haven't had to put Jimmy Graham in at right tackle. So the minute we do that, then
that's bad things.
yeah. Then I can see a couple things. Huh?
But everybody gets hit by injuries, though.
Absolutely.
They had a down year last year. There's a lot going on in Atlanta that they have such offensive firepower on one side. How about this? Has anybody heard from Roddy White this season? I think he had a touchdown in the first week, but I have not heard his name called at all.
I don't think he had a touchdown in the first game. I think he had a couple big passes. I remember he caught a couple passes that extended some drives. But as far as touchdown, I don't think he got a touchdown. But look now, I've said this before, like, Roddy White is falling off. He's another guy that's actually kind of falling off that cliff a little bit. He ain't the same Roddy White. I mean, they love him in Atlanta. I'm not much of a fan. I'll be honest with you. I'm not much of a fan. Not that he's a decent player, but who he is, his attitude, kind of strikes me wrong. But for the most part, as a player, right now, the last couple of years, if they really looked at Roddy White closely and looked at him with a scrutiny eye, you look at him sideways. He ain't playing nearly to the level that he was 2-3 years ago. He's just not. He wasn't last year. He's not this year. The dude he's disappearing. If it wasn't for Devin Hester, honestly, if they didn't have Devin Hester there right now, their asses would probably be 1-4, closer to 1-4 than they are now, than 2-3.
Right.
You know that the Falcons were they converted 2 out of 15 third downs in this game.
Yeah.
That is we're talking about. I mean, I don't care how bad you are. That is a terrible number right there.
That really is.
I mean, there's just no way you can win a game like that. But so this is what confuses me about that team is that yes, we can say the offensive line, they're bringing in dudes off the street, but their defense. I mean, people have scored on that team this year, so their defense isn't stopping anybody because they don't have a pass rush, and then the offense is so Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from week to week. Except for Julio Jones, and his ankle was, he rolled his ankle or did something, which wasn't big. He still was Julio and awesome. But he's like the only consistent piece on their team, I feel like.
But he's just another level player. I mean, it's really, really simple with him. You know what I mean? He's just another level player. He came out of college. He came in. He's one of those special guys. He's really up there with the Calvin Johnsons and the Dez Bryants, those type of guys right there who are just high-end players. No matter what team they play on, they're always going to be one of the better players. Julio, I got like a ton of respect for. Love the kid, and I think he's a hell of a player. You know, I think Roddy had his his time in the shining light. I'm sorry, I think it's gone. I think it's been gone. But he's just he's so revered there in Atlanta. They love him so much.
They do.
And and that's fine. He's theirs, because I damn should have better not ever see him in a Saint uniform.
No. That's speaking of. I wanna ask you. Remind me. Is Marcus Colston? Is he that drop-off player?
Yes, absolutely. I said it last week. He is. He absolutely. He's pretty much in the same boat as Roddy White. He's gonna make a play here and there. Both of them do, but they definitely are not the guys that they once were. And the Colston's playing smart. I mean, he's investing in he owns 2 teams now. He's part owner of 2 football teams. He's kind of getting his career, together. I think he knows it and he sees it, but he's playing it smart and he's using his money and putting it in other ways and going because I think he knows that one of those days is going to come that he's not going to be desperate. So he's not going to be in trouble with it. So I think but for the most part, between him and Roddy, yeah, they're both in the same boat. I stand by that one.
Joey, I want to ask you. I'm going to play something too from Mike Smith again, but I want to know about the condition, and I want us to be thinking about as we listen to this clip the condition of the NFC South. We've got a bunch of teams. The Panthers are the only team with a winning record right now, and so. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons are having a down. This could be a second down year, and this is what Mike Smith has to say.
What you're actually asking there, we have not been consistent, and ultimately, that lies on the coaches and the coaching staff, and that lies on me. You can talk about the players making plays. We haven't made plays.
So what he's saying, I mean, and this is something I want to know this, and I wish I was hoping to have Scott here because I found this. I think it's a good clip. And how long is his leash, Mike Smith? Because he really rocked it for a little while, where I felt like, man, he's going to be in Atlanta for a long time. And now I don't know if that's the case. Like, if this season does turn out to be the Panthers or the Saints winning it, and we go 7-8, 7-9, or 9-7,
8-8.
Yeah, 9-7, 8-8, and that's what wins. But at this rate, that's what it's looking like in some ways.
I can't
You
even
know,
argue
what does
that.
that say for Mike? What do you think? Is Mike Smith, is he vulnerable in Atlanta?
I heard or I've read today that Arthur Blank said, there's no, they haven't made any decision yet, and they won't make any decision until the season's over. So typical,
That's scary.
right?
When he says that,
Yeah, you don't want to
what I mean?
hear that if you're a
No,
coach.
Right,
exactly. I heard that, I'm already in the one ass. You know,
right.
I mean,
And I think Blank has a point because he has loaded the team with talent on the offensive side of the ball.
mhm.
He has brought in players, and I mean Mike Smith. That'd be too disappointing, is putting it mildly. Because
Yeah.
last year they were expecting him to make a Super Bowl run. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for them to miss out 2 years in a row, get high draft picks 2 years in a row.
Yeah. I still kind of think that he might get one more year. I mean, because will have to say this. It's been a long, and he's a decent coach. He's probably been the best coach they had in a while.
Mhm.
Probably since maybe Dan Reeves. I mean Reeves. I thought Reeves ran the team pretty fairly well. He was pretty decent for the most part. But after that, they kind of had some Jekyll and Hyde guys. Who had a good year here and they really just didn't turn out very well. I mean, he's been pretty solid and pretty consistent. But at the same time, I think part of it was that after the Michael Vick situation, they really wanted to have these straight edge guys, and I mean,
Right.
they didn't really want to have that nastiness on the team.
Right.
He wanted to clean things up, so they were very, very careful on who they picked. And sometimes that can be an issue. I hate to say it, you got to have a couple guys with some edge on them. I mean, not go to jail edge, embarrass the team edge. But you know what I'm saying? But
Punch in the
I mean,
mouth edge.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, do that. If somebody, dude that's gonna be willing to come out there and cave in a face mask if somebody mess with the quarterback, whatever, that type of, you want a guy with an edge to him, and you can still have a guy with an edge to him and not be somebody who spends time in jail.
Right.
And I think that's where they didn't find that balance there. So they got a lot of guys that were decent players, and they actually did pretty well over the time. But now it's like, I don't think that that formula is not working for them. It's just not, because sometimes it's a drop off in talent too.
I heard Mike Smith say it. I think it was on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
He said that talking about the rest of the league doesn't think you're a physical team. Talking about the Falcons,
And they're not.
and they're not. They are not.
They're not.
And that
You
hurts
know?
them.
Well, it does, and the fact that, and I saw those first couple episodes of Hard Knocks, and they made me laugh my ass off. And the reason why they did, because the fact that if I was a head coach who had been with that team for 3-4 years or so, and been very successful, now all of a sudden I got to go out here and tell this team that now we got to show our teeth and show that we're tough and show this. I mean, I shouldn't even ever have to say that. You should never have to say that.
Right.
Either you're tough or you're not. You know what I mean? It's no in between. I mean, you don't all of a sudden show it. Either you got it or you're not. Especially if you're between those lines. You can't tell me that, if you're between those lines, you're not going to be a little meaner, a little nastier, a little more dog in you if you have it in you, because you got to be, or you're out of there on a stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. So I felt like the guy was, he was trying to, the fact that he was trying to prop them up was going to kill him, was going to kind of hurt him and kind of kill him this year, and it did, because they concentrated more on that than probably even winning games or doing some of the other stuff.
Right.
Well, let's jump over to the Carolina Panthers game, Joey. We discussed this at length yesterday in the C3 podcast. The Panthers, speaking of a team that has a reputation for being physical and having a physical identity for a long time in many ways, but especially with what we put together last year, who had not played physical in the last 2 weeks. We've been blown out consecutive weeks. Joey, the defense stepped up in the second half, holding the Chicago Bears to 3 points, forcing Jay Cutler to beat Jay Cutler. Thomas Davis is that guy that has that tenacity in a good way. a toughness. I don't know if I would say well, yeah, he does have an edge. He will not be defeated, Joey, and we saw it in that game. What do you think about the Panthers win, the other NFC South victory of the week?
Huge win for Carolina and their confidence. I think, earlier, Greg, you were talking about that vocal leader that's a player on the team. And I didn't see it exactly, but I heard about it, about Cam getting on some people and dropping the F-bomb.
I think somebody got to do it. I mean, I know Drew kind of is the leader to the team in a way, but like I said, on that defense, especially with us, we need that one guy right there that just who willing to get in somebody's face and and set them straight. And you have to have it on your defense.
And that was Cam in this case. He went in, he got on somebody about something.
Probably Byron Bell for just opening the door.
for ushering in the defenders into the backfield.
Yeah, like carrying their luggage and helping them move in.
A game of turnstile.
Right. That's exactly right.
So
that's what we saw. We saw the Panthers dig deep. They dug deep, and they showed that they have the intestinal fortitude to pull out a game like that. I mean, Cutler and that offense, they are potent. They can be potent. They've got talent.
Yes.
But in this game, in that second half,
and they showed it. They were murdering us in the first half of that game. It was 21-7, and it was really 21-0 in some ways because the 7 points we put up were on the Philly falling down Brown fluke run back.
right.
That we'll take those points, but they weren't just honest points straight up. Like we
earned it. It's not like we went out and earned it.
Yeah, and so we were getting beat in that second half. I think that this game, in the first half, just beat down. We weren't winning anything. We weren't winning any battles. We were turning it over. And the second half of the game started with that TD, that Thomas Davis, that big hit, and then Cam Newton leading the 2-minute drive at the end for a touchdown to Greg Olsen with like 50 seconds left or whatever it was. That was a moment where they kind of wiped the tears off their face or wiped the snot off their nose and got up and punched back. And then they came out of the second half and were kept punching. And the defense really stepped up to the plate. Joey, are we going to be able to assume that defensive identity again in the weeks to come, or is that really the best we got? Was that everything? We throw in the haymakers.
I think we showed that we're capable of it. I mean, we knew we were capable of it from last year. This year we've had some things change. We don't have Greg Hardy. We don't have Frank Alexander again. So we have had to deal with some changes, but that middle of that defensive line is still the same guys. It's still the same people. Then you get to that second level, Kuechly, Thomas Davis, same guys. So we know we're capable of it. And I think we showed it Sunday, and we should be able to carry it forward. I'm sorry. We showed it Sunday afternoon in the second half, what we're really all about, and we should be able to carry that forward.
I think what we saw, like you were mentioning, was Cam Newton as a player that shows that he's not going to be a guy that we have to question moving forward. I heard someone say today on the radio that we know that Cam Newton's going to be wearing a Carolina Panthers jersey for a long time. Because, he's really showing that he can be a quarterback. And with all the crap that people do incessantly about not being able to just play as a quarterback, he's done everything you could do. He was like 9 for 12 in the hurry up. He has a killer QBR rating for the season. I'm really impressed with him, and like you're saying, assuming that leadership role, what we saw out of him. If Joey, you said that we should do the fuel ups, the cruise control section, right, where we picked a team, picked a
MVP.
player, an MVP. Let me see if
Once you reach a comfortable cruising altitude, ladies and gentlemen, this flight attendant will be in the cabin and will offer you a cocktail beverage of your choice.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do. That's the cruise control segment.
I'll take an IPA, please.
I'll take a gin and tonic, please. What Joey? Who is your MVP of this game?
My MVP of this game would be. Wow, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna say KK. I think.
KK.
Yeah.
K1 short.
Yeah, he blew up in the second half, and he really made a huge impact. And that's what we needed it, man. We needed somebody to do it, and he did it. So I'll have to go with him.
Greg, who's the MVP of the Saints game?
Kyrie Robinson. I'm gonna go with Kyrie. I mean, that run was that was a great run right there. If he makes runs, keeps running like that, which he does. If he keeps running like that, I mean,
that's beast mode. He went beast mode on that run.
Yeah, he really did. And if he showed he can do it, and if he can keep doing that, Mark Ingram could be easily, as they say, Wally pipped. It was very much, he could be out of there really quick, sent packing.
So much for being the best in the league, like you say was going to be, or whatever, the best running back.
He ran well. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. And I mean, if he comes back, he's got to show it right off the bat that he still got it. He can't have a slow start.
Right.
My MVP for this past week was Thomas Davis, and turning that around and kind of being the emotional leader of a team that was really on the ground. I mean, we were on the ropes in that game. We were on the ropes, and we were about to get thrown in the corner. It was about to be done. And he was the one thing that kept us swinging until halftime. So I want to say, what about this? What do you guys, Odell Beckham Jr. played his first NFL game in the Atlanta Falcons game, caught a touchdown.
Yes, he did.
It was a nice catch. It was a nice catch. There was tough coverage there, so that was a nice catch he made.
It was on that Alfred kid, and Alfred, by the way, is the coaches for the Atlanta Falcons are not particularly happy with Alfred. From what I heard in the press conference, he had a defensive holding call too that extended a drive and I think it wound up to a touchdown for the Giants. He's the one that got tossed on in that Odell Beckham Jr. play. How good is it? Would you guys have been happy with Odell? I think about this, Joey. We wanted him.
We did.
The Saints. A lot of Saints fans wanted him too. They would have loved to have him.
I wonder with the injury because Benjamin has been able to be an instant producer. Right. If we would have gotten him and then he had the same turnout, missed and all that time, would we have been disappointed?
I don't think so. I saw the guy through his whole college career, most of his college career. Especially the last couple of years with him. That dude is a playmaker.
He is.
He's straight up a playmaker. I mean, in the special teams, he can do it. On the offense. So I'm not shocked that he was in one that caught one hell of a pass there from on the Falcons. I mean, so for me, I think anybody who picked him was going to be happy with him. They weren't going to have a problem. As long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be good. He's going to be very good. I think
that's where we would have been hurt, was if he would have been hurt and not been able to play for the first 4 weeks. Yeah. It would have hurt.
Yeah, it could have, And you can tell it kind of hurt the Giants early on.
Yeah, definitely. Now that he's there and if he's healthy, he could be a real legit threat opposite of Cruz.
Yeah, with Cruz, and then you think about Randall. Randall's very underrated.
Right.
A decent receiver, not a great receiver, but a good receiver.
Right. And he's big.
And he's big. And so like I said, the Giants were coming together. I saw it. I mean, I could tell the total difference compared to what they were in preseason and even in week one, the first couple of weeks there, they were horrid.
Yeah.
But you could see the difference. I mean, that team has come together really fast. Eli's catching on, and if that's the case, watch out. They could be something to reckon with.
I think they're a fraud.
You think?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I got to stick to my guns because I thought that they were going to be bad. So They were so terrible to start the season.
They
I mean,
were.
it
They
wasn't
were.
just a little bit. It was really bad.
No, it was horrid. I mean, yeah. I was like, I was surprised they can even. How would they even bother walking on the field looking like that? It was just
Right.
bad.
All right, so let's talk about the matchups coming up this week. Greg
All right.
and the Saints have a easy matchup. The only sure win for the Saints this come in recent memory has
Yeah.
been, and it's the bye week. So Joey, we're gonna go on and play Cincinnati. We're going to Cincinnati after they got a stomping by the Patriots on Monday night. They're a tough team with a strong defense, good offense. Is this a winnable game for the Carolina Panthers? And then I want to get the outside perspective from Greg about this, how he sees.
Let's put this in terms of this offense. Yes, the offense is extremely talented. However, it does look like Adrian Green will not be playing in this game
Yeah, because of the toe.
Really?
because of his
Yeah.
toe. Yes, he was
Yes.
trying to get off the field today.
Yeah.
And they
Oh
think
wow!
he re-aggravated, I guess, an injury he had earlier.
Yeah, his toe, the ligament in his toe, I think it was.
So they said it's not looking favorable for him to be playing. So that is a tremendous help to
That's
our
a huge
effort.
help.
Yes.
Gosh, that's like the best. I mean, I don't ever like to cheer for somebody's misfortune, and I just did by accident. But I was excited to hear that because that's the. I mean, to me, he's the premier receiver of the NFL right now. I don't think there's anybody better than him.
I was very concerned as to how we were going to cover him. That was a very big concern of mine. But now it's looking like it's something that we don't have to.
It looked like the toe health care.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So with that in mind, that's probably going to help us to be able to focus on Giovanni, and that's what we need to do. We need to stop Bernard, keep him in check, and that will slow down that offense. If that same defensive front that showed up in the second half of the Bears game shows up for this game, it's going to be hard on Andy, his old red rifle back there. Yeah, he doesn't like to throw the ball when there's people in his face. He gets extremely uncomfortable and panics sometimes. So
He does. He's played well. He's doing what Andy Dalton does, and that is he plays well for these 4 or 5 game stretches, to where all of a sudden people, we all think that he's about to be an elite quarterback. I mean, he had a great rookie season overall. They've gone to the playoffs or had these winning seasons all 3 years.
Yeah.
And then he'll go through this moment, like a 2 or 3 game stretch, where it's just like he's just bad. And he'll throw some dumb interceptions, and the offense just won't click. And you're just like, what? Where is the guy that we were watching for the last couple of weeks? And it's happened so repeatedly every year that I don't know if we can trust. Is this just the same old story? Andy Dalton hot 4 or 5 games, and then he's not in New England, and here we go. Next week, Panthers get 2 easy picks on them. Who knows? Greg, what do you think about the Bengals? Do you buy them as a team? I mean, obviously they're going to be good. I mean, they're 3-1.
Definitely a good team. Very talented. Very deep. I mean, they got depth. They got So I mean, yeah, you're losing AJ Green in that game. The likelihood is that he's not going to play. But I mean, Mohamed Sanu, good player. They got a couple of guys there that they got some receivers still that can still do the job. They may not be as high powered. You know what I mean? So they may not be quite as scary, but I think that they can still. I think they still can work their way around and end up beating you in this game. Number 2, it is on the road, so I mean at home for them, on the road for you guys. I think that kind of helps them, especially coming back after that. Like I said, that one hell of an ass whooping they received in New England against New England. You know what I mean? So now that a game like that, sometimes you find out what that team is like. In this game right here, do they snap back and actually come out there and play their best ball because they got to want to make up for what they screwed up in that game.
And thus far, our record against the AFC North is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, well,
With
yeah,
the
I mean, that's right.
Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The Steelers and the Ravens have already. That's right. They
Whooped
both
us.
took you out.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, with this, maybe how if my kind of theory about Andy Dalton is right, and he goes through these couple of games, and the Panthers, if he struggles in this game that in 2 weeks, and say the Panthers can give him enough trouble, Joey, what do you say about Andy Dalton after that moment? Because I think we forget that some people called for Andy Dalton to be the Rookie of the Year over Cam Newton when they were 3 years ago.
They made the playoffs that year, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have. Will they give Andy Dalton that type of criticism? What would you think about him if he had trouble?
They'll criticize him.
I think so
that's
too.
a terrible nickname.
I think for him to start out as well as they did, they started out hot. They were being touted as one of the top power teams in the NFL. Maybe second or third in the whole NFL.
Yep.
All this, and then for them to go on the schneid because of Dalton's play, I think people are going to make some noise about it.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think that Cincinnati wins this game. I think they edge you out. I do. I think part of it, like I said, on the road, and I think it's just the fact that I think that this is going to be a makeup game for them. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. That I don't think that they're going to be down in the dumps about it. I think they're going to be a little more up about this one, and the fact that they'll be at home. Now, if you guys get off to a fast start, that's going to be your key right there. If you get up to a fast start and pound them early, you probably can win this game easily. But if you don't get a fast start on them, I don't know about coming back on them.
Thomas Davis didn't practice today, Joey. Elbow.
Oh, yeah?
That he played through. So, and neither did Darren Reeves, but they said he looked, that he doesn't look hurt. They just, I guess we're holding him out because they can't get the backup hurt.
All right, giving him a break.
They gotta save him.
Backup.
They were saving him. My man got a rest like he was a veteran, like he was Adrian Peterson.
Well, Peterson getting a different kind of rest, man.
I think that with AJ Green out, Joey, I think this becomes a winnable game for the Carolina Panthers.
Yes, it is.
So I think that really was uplifting. To hear that if Thomas Davis plays, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. The Atlanta Falcons, do they play Chicago at Soldier Field? Does anybody know?
Atlanta plays Chicago. I think that's at home. Hold on. Let me check that out because I know I saw it. Let me take a look here.
So this is another thing, Joey, is that I think we get to see something a lot out of more about Cincinnati in our matchup when we go there. I think we're going to learn a lot about their team. If we lose, I think it's going to be understandable. If somehow we win there, I think that's going to tell us something about the Cincinnati Bengals and maybe AJ Green to their character. But how does that apply to Atlanta and Chicago? What I mean by this is Chicago now is coming off 2 difficult losses, back to back. One where they should have, in many ways, I feel like they should have beat the Carolina Panthers. And I mean, you got to give us credit, but they didn't play a good game overall. I mean,
Atlanta's at home.
All right, so they're going to go to Atlanta. That's a tough matchup for Chicago again.
Yes.
But I think that they can win that game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about Atlanta right now. I don't know how they can fix the problems that they have. I don't think you can be a high-powered offensive team that's going to try to outscore and run and shoot people when you can't block anybody.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to have one part of your game that is good. You can't have a crappy defense and then an inconsistent offense. You got to have a consistency somewhere. And I don't see it for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Allen could have a field day, him and his old self, going against, backup to the backup to the backup's
The
backup.
tight end.
Right. Or a tight end playing offensive tackle. You know what I mean? He's a savvy veteran. So he
Yeah.
could have a big game. And, we know that Atlanta's defense is highly suspect. And we've mentioned earlier how potent that Chicago's offense is.
Mm-hmm.
So, it seems that this game is one Atlanta could lose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, let's go ahead and make the pick since we're not going to talk a ton about the details of this game without Scott. Let's go ahead and pick this game. Greg, who do you got?
I'm going for Chicago just because, I'm not a Falcons fan. I don't like the Falcons anyway. So that's part of it. But, I mean, the other part is, like you said, I mean, I think that team is limping too damn much to beat Chicago on this one. I think they feel, they really, if they had their starting lineup and they were healthy, I think you're definitely looking at a really good game. But the whole key is as long as Chicago don't let them hang in that game, then they should be fine. They'll be fine. Chicago will win this game.
I'm with you on that. Joe, who do you like in this game?
It makes it unanimous. I make it unanimous. I think Chicago has enough to come into Atlanta and beat Atlanta. And Chicago's lost 2 in a row. The first one that they lost to Green Bay, that was a drubbing. Green Bay put it on them.
They really did.
So they need this win.
Mm-hmm. And if you think about the game against you guys, they kind of let you hang in there, and you end up pulling that one out.
We stole it. Yeah, we beat them in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that one right there, that one's going to probably hurt worse than the drubbing. I mean, if you get a beat down and you just couldn't do anything, you just got whooped. But
Right.
boy, if you had one that you were beating them for 3 quarters or whatever, and then you turn around and you let that slip away and win and lose, those hurt.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
All right. Greg, you said you had Cincinnati against Carolina,
Cincinnati.
right?
Yep, Cincinnati. I got Atlanta there.
Who do
I
you
mean,
got?
not
in
Atlanta,
that game?
Cincinnati, Chicago.
Definitely taking the Panthers in this. It's going to be a close game. I don't think we blow them out, but I think we have just enough to get past them, especially with them not having AJ on their offense.
I really wish we knew if how serious Thomas Davis' injury was with the elbow and all the tackling that he's going to be doing, because without him, I think that I see us struggling in this game. But with AJ Green out, I'm going to go Panthers. I'm going to change. Last night I picked Cincinnati. I told you guys my picks go throughout. Basically, I'm hedging my bets against the last night's show to see. Except for we don't keep up with our picks on that show like we do here. And New Orleans is on the bye week, so
What
you
about
guys
Tampa?
automatically. Tampa is playing. Ooh, they're playing a good matchup, I think. Let me see.
Yeah, they got who did they got? I forgot who it was. I should know too.
Tampa Bay is playing Baltimore.
Oh, Lord.
Well, okay.
Where at?
Where at is they have to be on. It's at Tampa. Tampa Bay only plays at home. I feel like they've played so many home games.
You play 4 out of 5 games at home.
All right, so it's at Tampa. The what did I say?
Ravens lost last week
against the Colts, and they got a good whooping too.
Yeah. That was a physical game too.
Yeah.
That was a game where people were getting hit and hit hard. I'm
Now,
gonna go Ravens.
I'm gonna
Going
go Ravens
Ravens?
too.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going Ravens.
I now without a doubt, the Tampa's definitely playing a lot better with Mike Glennon than they ever were with Josh McGowan. I mean, like I said, I would give him that. If Lovie Smith even considers for him to consider even putting Josh McGowan back out there ever again at this point, well, I love Lovie, but he's gonna lose a lot of credibility with me if I see Josh McGowan trotting out there, when he's healthy, especially if Glennon is healthy. You know what I'm saying? Unless Glennon's hurt.
Right.
But,
That ain't happening.
That team believes in Glennon. They believe in Glennon.
Glennon has played well. He played well for Tampa Bay last year.
Yes, he did.
I mean, he didn't play great, but he played he didn't play other than the Panthers game where he just dropped the football on that one play, which was
Yeah.
the game changer for us last season. Other than that, he played. He didn't blow anybody up,
Right.
but he made him make a lot of mistakes for a young kid, and so I
He,
think
well,
he's
yeah,
consistent, and he's got an arm on him.
He does.
he does. He showed me enough because I mean with Glennon, he showed me enough that I would say like this: if he was quarterback in my team or he was on my team, I wouldn't have a problem putting him out there. I mean, he's got enough to work with. Any coach should be able to feel like that they got a shot with the kid. It really.
McCown is trash.
Well, I said that for the longest. The minute that signing came up, I told y'all.
Getting back to the Tampa game, I think Mike Evans is out too in that
Evans
game.
is still out. I think he's still out.
Yeah, so he won't be playing.
Yeah. I mean, and you can imagine Baltimore is going to be a little angry and a little nasty on that game.
Mm-hmm.
But they played tough against you guys, though. They played Tampa Bay played tough against you. Tampa Bay played tough against the Saints. So
they did, and
it might not be a blowout.
No, I don't think
it won't be a blowout. No, I mean no, because the thing about it is this: that I mean, it ain't that Tampa doesn't have they have talent on that team. They got talent in some spots, but they just kind of they weak. They're very very weak in some spots too, and they have some injuries. They definitely got some injuries there. Or that team could probably be definitely a lot more competitive than what as far as the division goes, than what they really are at this point. I mean,
Who are you taking, Tony?
I'm taking the Ravens.
Okay.
Because this is what is that I feel that Tampa Bay is too. I mean, Gerald McCoy is a superstar on their team,
without a doubt.
But I don't know anybody else really that. I don't know if they're playing like a team just yet.
Levante David is another kid I like a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have some good pieces in Tampa that is attractive, but their run game has just not been productive.
I think it's because their offensive line is in such bad shape.
Yeah, the offensive line.
They got Mankins. They got. I mean, it's not talent-wise. They also got. They got the kid from the guy that a lot of people wanted to come to Carolina, Anthony Collins, I believe, left tackle.
Yeah, that's right. He was he was a backup bouncer.
I mean, I know these guys are a little long in the tooth, but it's how bad can how really bad can the offensive line be when it comes to running the ball? And I think there might be some questions with Doug Martin, and really. Is he legit? And I wanted him to be legit, but I was thinking about this. A buddy of mine who's a Tampa Bay fan told me that year that he went crazy his rookie season and we got all those fantasy points, half of his yards for the season came in 2 games. So he had like a 200-yard game rushing, and he put up 50 points in fantasy football or something crazy. But then he wasn't super consistent, and we're seeing that translate in injury because he's little. Last year, this year, he's just not really scary. And I don't know. I can't trust Tampa as a team. I think, but the other thing I don't like about the Ravens and Joe Flacco, to end on this subject, is that he's like Matt Ryan to me. Is sometimes they're lights out. I mean, sometimes they're just good, and then other times they're just regular old dudes out there on a Sunday. They look like, and Flacco, you just don't. I don't think you really know what you get week to week, unless you get just never great 5 touchdowns. Awesome. I don't know. I don't really trust either of those guys either. So, but I'm picking the Ravens because I think their defense is better.
Better defense, and overall, I think they're clicking in there. They're a little more on the roll. They're definitely looking better than compared to Tampa right now. Tampa's still kind of putting the pieces together, and like you said, their run game is going to be the run game is going to be a big difference for Tampa. The fact that they don't have one, that kind of hurts them.
All right, well, that's my pick. You guys got any other last topics in the NFC South that need to be talked about? Because if not, we can call it a night.
No, not really. No, I hate sports now.
We covered everything, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will meet back next week here for Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Southbound and Down podcast. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week.